Friends, and welcome to episode 153 of the Noclip podcast. It's our final regularly scheduled episode of the Noclip podcast as we enter the domain of GOTY. The GOTY Game of the Year. I'm excited for all of the just we'll have to get Jeff Keighley on here to tell us how the categories work, because the way we do it is clearly not the right way. Jeremy Jane, how excited are you to talk about the games of the years?
I couldn't be more excited. And, the best thing is that like everything is I love indie games. And, I love seeing the category of indie games expanded to include no, I'm just kidding. I'm very excited. Game of the Year is like probably I love the podcast every week, but the Game of the Year stuff gets so spirited, and it's not like we're not like debating what the best game of the year was. So I feel like there's a world in which we do a real contentious game of the year, right? And I'm like, no, Chants of Sennaar is objectively better than this and this. But yeah, no, it's just like we all just get to yell about video games in the most optimistic, positive, celebratory way ever. It's like it's the best.
You're right. There is I think when we were approaching this, there was an acknowledging of other websites over the years that we have worked at, or ones that we haven't worked at, where it does tend to get contentious. Like the GameSpot ones, I remember, were real ripe sometimes, and I know the Giant Bombs over the years can get kind of testy, whereas ours are more, maybe they're less, I don't know, maybe they're less something, less total, maybe they're less universal, maybe you don't play every game, maybe they're a little bit skewed one way or another, but I think hopefully everyone comes away with like, those are 10 games that I will play now, because they've been each of them celebrated. Frank Howley, how are you doing? How are you excited for the games of the year?
I'm excited. There's always the anxiety is that there's never enough time to play everything. Oh, yeah. And I like even 10 years from now, we'll be discovering games from 2023. Like even last night, I had my Xbox on playing Def Jam Fight for New York, still discovering new classics. But
so much to discover.
I'm glad to see you're using your last days until we do the Game of the Year podcast to play the relevant titles.
Yeah, I don't know. Wrestling is. I'm just diving into all the wrestling stuff. But no, I'm excited because it's honestly just it's nice to have time to kind of play a bunch of really, really good games. We'll save it all discussion for it, but like I even like cracked deeper into Alan Wake 2, and I'm like, oh, this is
nice.
Yeah, I don't know. So it feels good. It feels good.
The layers. Well, as a result of this week's podcast, which is not a Game of the Year podcast, is a little bit light on games, because we've all been tunneling into the year that was 2023, and we don't want to burn good Game of the Year pod. But before we jump into the games that we have played, let's go through our sort of tentative Game of the Year list. But we'll do it right after I do a shout out to all of our incredible Battle Pass holders, Battle Royale games: Arno, Richard Matherson, James Brown, Jason Drury, Mark Rojas, Ryan Cobb, Tucker Morgan, Crimson Cyclist, Sven Huster, Tim Robinson, Forrest Pruitt, Darren Birmingham, Eric Hamilton Schneider, Cameron Ladd, Alex Sharp, Alex Goucher, George Sikotis, Jacob Godserv, Tohir Tiliev, and of course, Ryson. Thank you all so much. And thank you to all of the folks who purchased some merch over at store.noclip.video. It's finally up. Store.noclip.video. Go check out a what looks like a Doom mousepad, but is definitely intellectually property distinct from that. Made by Orahak, our awesome artist who's done some incredible work for us over the years. Go check out the Among Us poster. Go check out the Zip Up hoodie, Noclip Zip Up hoodie with the embroidered logo. We got some good shit up on that. We got a Stunt Derby shirt. It's all happening. I'm gonna get some secret tape stuff up there too. And if you're a patron of Noclip, go to the general chat on our Discord and look at the pinned message. And there is an offer code to get 10% off any order through Sunday. So Sunday the 3rd of December. You can do that. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone. We really appreciate it. A lot of the stuff has been priced to make it so it's easier to get. So we're not earning shed loads off this stuff, but we make up. I think I went through the budget stuff a couple of days ago, and we get like a 38% markup on everything that's there. So definitely a good vibe. Y'all get to have some cool Noclip stuff like badges and cups and t-shirts and awesomeness. Audrey did some rad designs for us, which we finally got up as well. I should mention that with the posters and the mousepad stuff as well, any of those that we did with artists that weren't specifically done for merch, we're actually doing a 50% cut with those folks as well, just to make sure that that's all equitable and everything. But yeah, it definitely helps us out. We do it through Printful and Shopify, which is every product that's up there I have tested myself to make sure it's not garbage or doesn't cost a fortune to ship. I'm looking at you, the pint glasses, which looked all right, but they were all made in like Croatia, so if you wanted them, it cost a fortune to get them. So we're not doing any of that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's good. It means that you get some cool merch, maybe for Christmas, maybe for a loved one, maybe your grandmother really loves this podcast. You want to get some badges, I don't know what's going on. But we got stickers up there finally, the number one most requested thing for years. Obviously it helps out Noclip, and and you get some cool shit too. So store.noclip.vidya. Okay. I should say video, just in case somebody will type in Vidya.
Vidya.
Yeah, that'd be pretty
Someone's
cool.
going to type Vidya.
Games.vidya. That'd be pretty cool. I wish we'd get that.
We should get that too.
We should, you're right. Let's have a little look at our Game of the Year list. Before this is not a Game of the Year podcast. Maybe I'm breaking the rules here a little bit, but what we decided to do as a team, what Frank decided to do was organize our ramblings over on the staff Discord and get together a list of games that myself, Jeremy, Frank, and of course Jesse, who will be joining us on the Game of the Year podcast. We would never do it without him. Wouldn't dare. Need his insight on bomb funk, cyberfunk, which I cannot say that fucking. I call it bomb funk, like the bomb funk MCs. Do you remember that song? Did that ever make it to America? Straight to the top of my dome as I rock a microphone. Frank, of course.
Yeah, the only reason I know about it is because I would spend summer vacations in Russia, like in the late 90s. So it was on Russian MTV, but I had that, Bomb Pump MCs.
Yeah,
or whatever.
Kid,
yeah.
I had it on single, and it came with the video with the little kid with the dreadlocks. Who I think was he in the band? He looked like he was like 8, but he might have been older. Yeah, I used to call him the buttfuck MCs because I was a child when that song came out. Anyway,
damn, roasted.
Exactly. So let's have a look. Well, let's go through. We had 29 games in here. I did just add Lethal Company because we got to do our due diligence. That game is fucking exploding on Steam. It's funny, you mentioned it to me on Discord yesterday, Jeremy, and someone else had mentioned it to me the day before, and the day before that I read an article talking about it. So I'm like, it's finally gotten to the middle-aged guys. It's like or the people in their 30s. I shouldn't call you middle-aged.
Through the Twitch meta to
exactly.
you.
It's finally gotten to us. It came out back in October. It has 90,000 reviews on Steam, overwhelmingly positive, like a sort of a co-op scavenging game.
Yeah, it's like a co-op horror game, comedy horror game about like the gig economy and scavenging in places full of monsters. It's kind of like it has a little bit of Phasmophobia, a little bit of SCP in it. It's a really cool game. SCP?
I don't think I played SCP.
It's like I'm a millennial, so if you're a Zoomer and you're listening to this, pardon my ignorance. It's like a internet meme turned into it spawned a bunch of video games. It's about secure containment protocol. It's like a bunch of cryptids and monsters and stuff that have different behaviors. So like one is like the weeping angel from Doctor Who, and you can't look away and stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. SCP Containment Breach Remastered is available on Steam. That will not be making the 2023 list. So I stuck Lethal Company on there, but we had a bunch of other ones. So let's go from the top because I feel like that's where a lot of the bangers are, or at least it goes from AAA down to indie stuff. So I shouldn't confuse money spent on developing game with quality of game. That is the problem with, I guess, the term AAA in the first place. We have Alan Wake 2 up here, which seems like everyone has to play a lot more of, judging by the notes on this. Frank, how close are you to the end of it, or have you gotten? It's a long game.
I think I'm halfway through. I think I check my progress through the trophy list, and I'm at like 54% of trophies.
Okay.
Yeah.
17 and a half hours, according to howlongtobeat.com. So it ain't short. By the way, if you don't hear a game on this that you think and you're listening to the podcast, feel free to send us an email or hit us up on Discord if you think there's something we have tragically overlooked. We have Baldur's Gate 3 on here, of course, which I think is a lot of people's sort of front runner for Game of the Year on lots of the websites. Blasphemous 2, which I absolutely adored. Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, great song, which I've only started playing a couple of days ago. Works really good on Steam Deck. Man, that game is fucking cool. That's the soundtrack alone is like fucking, yeah, it goes pretty hard. We have a Cocoon on here. Jesse put this one down. Have you guys played this?
I played a bit of it. It's like a puzzle game, kind of a dimension swapping puzzle game. It's really neat. I think one of the designers from Inside made it, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, this thing. I saw Austin Walker talking about this on Twitter and saying, like, do not sleep on this game.
It's cool.
Yeah, this looks neat. Okay. Man. So many good games. Counter-Strike 2 on here too. Played some of that last night. Dave the Diver, Indie Game of the Year, according to the Game Awards, despite being created by Nexon. Interesting one. Dredge. I think is the DLC for that game coming out
I think
the end of the year.
Out,
did it? It's soon though, right? At least, at the very least, it's soon.
Pale Reach.
The Pale Reach. The Pale Reach around. When's it coming out? When is it reaching into our...
November 16 it came out.
Oh, it did? Okay, cool.
Reaching into our hearts and minds.
Beautiful. I got to check that out. Got to add it in. Final Fantasy 16. Jesse's the only one who's played this one, I think. Have you guys played this? You going to cram in a Final Fantasy game before next week?
Frank, you played this, right?
I got like a third of the way through it. And like with a lot of Final Fantasy games, a lot of people are like, oh, you got to play the first 10 hours and then it gets good. No, honestly, this might be the kind of game I want to play right now because I want just stuff to grind, and I forgot I had that in progress. But my problem was I was starting to skip cutscenes because I did not care about the story stuff. But now that's back in consideration. I will pay attention to the cutscenes.
Beautiful.
We'll see. But the gameplay is good.
Game of great cutscenes. Hi-Fi Rush. It's like Bomb Rush Cyberpunk if it was made by like 100 people and had like $50 million maybe or something like that.
And the soundtrack opened with like Dad Rock, the Black Keys.
You're right. Yeah. It's got one foot in its 401k there. Homebody. I have to go back and play more of that. I really enjoyed the start of that, but it freaked me the fuck out, Jeremy. So thank you in advance.
It's so good.
It's like Immortality when I played that, and I was texting you through it as a sort of a coping mechanism. Jusant. I should mention as well, Cocoon. Oh, Cocoon's on Game Pass. Great. So is Hi-Fi Rush, and so is Jusant, which is the climbing game that's come up a couple of times over the past few weeks here on the podcast. Lies of P. Played some more of that during the weekend as well. Love me some Lies of P. Am I the only person who's played Lies of P? I might be.
I still need to play it.
Yeah, I started. I still got to play more.
Expensive, boys. Just do it. Just get it. Look, expensive anyway, because like you might play 2 hours of it for Game of the Year, but next year you're like, you know what? I'm craving some Bloodborne shit. Give me some of that Kirkland signature Bloodborne, baby. Let's go. Liza P. Midnight Suns is on here, but that did not come out this year, so maybe just as a farewell to Jake Solomon over at did they ever end the layoffs over there for Firaxis? I'm not quite sure. Great game. Maybe one of those tragic games that just kind of like a cult classic. Maybe didn't sell as well as it deserved to. Although you can kind of see this year with the Marvel stuff has just sort of died on its arse, hasn't it? Like comic books just fucking ate shit this year. Midnight Suns did come out December 1st last year though, so there's a good argument to be made that was a game that we did not. Didn't make it into Game of the Year conversations last year. Did we have a best 2021 game of 2022 last year? You guys remember?
I don't think we did.
I don't think so. No.
I can see the argument for we kind of do a game of the December to December, not really the year. You know what I mean?
That is true. I'm trying to remember. Do we have the names of the other ones written down anywhere?
Let's go listen to the podcast.
Let's go listen to
on
the
this
other
podcast.
I have the document. I found the document.
Nice.
We'll go through the document in a second. What else do we have here? Resident Evil 4 remake. That's a Frank Howley joint right there. I gotta play some more of that. Another Frank Howley joint. Oh god, this is the part where Frank started writing games into the document. We've Slayers X up next. What was the full title for that, Frank?
I think it's like Slayers X Terminal Aftermath of the Slayer. Something. Yeah, it's amazing. I should put the full title in to honor and respect J. Tholen.
Absolutely, yeah. We have two of us have completed that one, so I feel like we're well covered on that. If anyone wants to play it a little bit, maybe. Street Fighter 6 here as well. I need to play some more of that. System Shock. I might be the only one who's played that one. The remake.
So that one I grabbed on Steam sale.
Oh,
so
cool.
that one I'm planning to play. That looks awesome. Do you know how long that is? I feel like the game's not super long. I don't know.
That's a good question. System Shock remake. Let me look it up. I would guess 11 hours. Oh God, is it 20? It's 20 to 25 hours.
Oh,
Really?
wow.
On Game Ranch? It says 12 hours, other people have said. Who knows? The internet is not quite sure. How long to beat? I'll use them. They're always my go-to. 15 and a half hours. All right. That's a long game. Did one just get deleted?
No, I whatever.
You put in
format. Yeah.
You put in all of Slayers X's full title. That's good. It's proper journalism right there. Terra Neal, that's from Free Lives, the folks behind Genital Jousting, which we did a documentary on a couple of years ago. Have any of you guys played Terra Neal yet?
No, I've not.
I would say that's a good, if you're not in the mood to play some Game of the Year games and you just want to chill the fuck out for a little while, stick on Terra Neal. It's very chill. It's like the most chill. It kind of looks like an isometric strategy game, but it plays more like just a chill ass. It's very about like bringing life back to Earth. So the vibes are immediately great. You're just like, you click a thing down, it makes water and grass starts growing and the music starts lifting. And you're like, oh yeah, okay. So yeah, enjoy some Terra Neal. Venba, who put this down? Is this a Jesse joint?
That's a Jesse game. Venba looks really interesting. It's sort of more of a narrative-driven game. It's about, I believe it's an Indian family talking about food and like kind of sharing their story through like food coming together through cooking.
Nice. In Canada as well. So shout out to Canada. There, Jesse doing his home nation proud. That actually reminds me that another game, Lethal Company, is a couple of games I've been playing. One game I have played that I want to talk about today, and then there's another one, Thirsty Suitors, which is another game that I wanted to play before we finalize this list. So there's a couple of more other ones that might slip in here as well. We Love Katamari Reroll. That's the remaster, right, Frank?
Yeah, so this one was I kind of just put on here as like an honorable mention because legitimately like one of my top 5 gaming experiences of the year was going through all the Katamaris, and it was launched by the We Love Katamari reroll that came out, and it was only like $30 or maybe even it's 20 now, but incredible. I had never touched that one, and the soundtrack, oh my god. So I strongly recommend everyone just play it regardless. Just it's so good. We Love Katamari. I think I even like it better than the original because the missions in We Love Katamari are even goofier.
Yeah.
Even though the creator did not want to make a sequel, and there's like this, it's so weird because of that. So it's spiteful art. It's great.
It's like Keita Takahashi, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Excellent. Bay Area local now. Pizza Tower's in here too. We had a great video of that over on Crew a number of months back. Chance of Sonar, which Jeremy talked about quite recently. Did you play more of that since we?
I finished it.
Oh, you did? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Another Jeremy classic here, Mosalina, which I've also
good.
enjoyed. Might be in contention, that one. Small Saga, which we talked about last week. Octopath Traveler 2. Frank, you've gotten around to playing some of that?
So Octopath Traveler 2 was a game I played like 20 hours at the beginning of the year, and I loved it. So I should allow myself to play more of it with the next few weeks because like it's so good, but so many games kept coming out.
Yeah, you got to complete Final Fantasy 16 before you do that. Slay the Princess, which, did we talk about that last week? Oh yeah, this one. I downloaded this after I saw it on the list. I haven't played it yet. It's It's like a
I haven't
horror
played it
game?
yet either, but it looks it's like a very meta kind of like narrative horror game. I don't know that much about it because I feel like it's one of those games you go into blind.
Right. Did you put this one in, or did Jesse?
I did.
Okay. All right. Okay. We'll stick it. Maybe you give it a go, and then I'll know. Well, actually, I think I've already bought it, so maybe I'll just play it.
I'll let
anyway.
you know if you should return
Okay.
it.
Excellent. Typecast, of course. I played a bunch of that this week. Very cool. And I just stuck in Lethal Company for shits and giggles. Is the setup we have this year. So plenty of games. We won't all play all of them, of course. But the way it works for a Noclip's Game of the Year is that we will pick our top 10 favorite games. No order, just like here are the games we think are the best 10, or we'll cheat like last year and do 11. And then we give them their own bespoke award, right? That was the vibe. So I have a document here, but it really is very confusing. It looks like the type of document somebody has rushed together last minute. Just like
It only resembles one though. It was not rushed together.
Oh, I found it. I found it now. Okay. Are these accurate? These may or may not be the right ones we did last year. I can't remember. But let's go through them. Tunic won the Rediscovering Mystery Award last year. That's a good game.
I've played more Tunic this year. It kind of clicked
really?
with me more this year. Yeah, it's a game I have played in 2 to 3 hour chunks every couple months or so. It's probably not the most optimal way to enjoy it, but I have come to appreciate it.
Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 won Gaming with the Homies, which was, I believe, Frank's doing. Horizon Forbidden West won Best Road Trip. I like the two of those because it's very like it sort of contextualizes why these games are good. Call of Duty is just like it's good to stick on, hang out with your mates, and Horizon is like, yeah, just seeing shit's cool in that game.
Yeah, I feel like that's why I like the superlative approach, because we're not arguing about. It's not like we're doing this is the third objectively best game of the year. We're just kind of honing in on the games that we appreciated the most, and then like zooming in on the reason why we appreciate them. Like I don't know. I feel like Frank wouldn't even say that Call of Duty is the best game of last year. It's just like his experience with it is kind of the more primary thing that we talk about. You know what I mean?
I feel like it's like if you were the parent of like 7 kids and you have to love each of them.
Yeah,
like
equally.
individually and equally, right? Yeah, for like their own thing, right? Yeah, it's like that. Speaking of, God of War Ragnarok got Father of the Year award, which felt like a bit of a cop out, but Jesse battled hard to keep that one in there, so we needed to make sure it had a good award. Pentiment had Tapestry of Humanity award.
I love that one.
That's a good one. Maybe we'll talk about Pentiment a bit more before the year's out. I'll have to wait and see. Immortality won Best Picture. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Good job, us last year.
Yeah, we did good.
Yeah, and we did good on the doc. We made the doc as well. We had it done. Neon White won God of Speed, which was God like gaudy.
Oh yeah,
but I don't get the reference now. God of Speed.
Yeah, is God of Speed
like God
like
of Speed? Like
that
because
a
you're
thing?
a god, right?
Yeah.
Because there's gods in Neon White, right?
Okay, Hermes is the god of speed, I guess some people say.
yeah.
I was trying to think of like what god of speed GOD would refer to outside of this context. I guess that's it.
God of Speed. I guess you're running around a lot. Some of these are a bit like a tattoo you got as a teenager. When you're trying to,
Yeah, it's a tramp stamp.
A little bit. Citizen Sleeper got one Narrative Shishimi.
Oh, love
which
that one.
is pretty good. Signalis won Survival Horror Homecoming. Man, Homecoming this year. I went Survival Horror Homecoming.
The devs listened to it and they liked the other one that we were tossing around better, which was like it was like a cosmic
Void of Sorrow.
Void of Sorrow, yeah, Cosmic Void of Sorrow.
That's
what it was. They were like, you guys should have gone with that.
Okay, maybe I'll drag that one down. So in years when civilizations in the past, in the future,
when aliens dig this up,
they'll see exactly. They'll see the other name this might have gotten. Weird West won Occult Classic, which is they should use that in their fucking marketing. To be honest, Occult Classic. That's pretty.
We're available.
That's pretty fucking good. Cult of the Lamb won Sweetest Execution, which is again a nice little double entendre there. You know, you got the sweet. We got Cult of the Lamb right here. We got my little long lamb they made this really long. If you're watching on video, I've got a Cult of the Lamb person, but they're like.
I have a question about the Cult of the Lamb stuffed animal. Did that come vacuum sealed and expand when you opened it? That's hilarious.
It did.
That's
it came
really
like absolutely horrifically, and I was like, "There's no way this is gonna." And it took like 3
that
days.
Just blew up like a snake in a can, like one of
Slowly.
those pranks from the 1950s.
Yeah, right. I should have had like a little, stop motion or a little photograph every hour. What do you call that? I use cameras.
Time lapse.
Time lapse. Thank you, Jeremy. Elden Ring, Grandest Adventure. Sure. Vampire Survivors won Best Fang for Your Buck.
That's pretty good.
Which I think somebody else came up with. I have a note here saying Ink-a-Lot. So I think that maybe was one of our patrons.
Oh yeah, that was on the Discord. Someone posted that.
Was it?
Yeah.
Best Fang for Your Buck. It's pretty good. And then Return to Monk Island won the final award with Impossible Comeback, which I think I was the only person who played that, so I felt a little bit cheeky getting it on there, but it was a very good game, and we have a very long documentary for it coming out in pretty soon. Actually, I'm going to try and get the early access one up like in the next week or so. It's an hour and 35 minutes long. I have it rendering again, but something up with the files on this one, so I have to render it in software, and it takes 12 hours. So that's
wow.
That's fun. So I'll be setting that up before I go home tonight, like I work at Pixar or something.
Rendering all the animations for the one character with 1,000 polygons.
All those
1,000
hairs.
polygons, not that much. 10 million polygons.
Exactly. So I'm excited. That's a bit of a warm up for everyone for next week. Just getting us back in the mindset of what are the games we're gonna have to battle. The hardest part is always battling to get the 10 in. That's it. After that, it's good fun. So we're going to do 4 episodes like we did last year. The first episode will be getting that list of whatever it is, 30 odd games, down to the 10 that we think are the best, or 11 if we cop it out. It's all good vibes over here. And then we're going to go through, we won't spend a lot of time sort of arguing about the good and bad of each game or any of that sort of stuff. We keep that for the next 3 episodes, which will come out the next 3 weeks. And those will be basically, we will take 4 or 3 of those games. We will talk about them, celebrate them, ask questions about them, answer questions about them. And then we will, at the end of each episode, give them their award, whatever it is. And then we'll do that. It'll take us 3 episodes to get through the whole shebang. Last year, the episodes were about 2 hours each a piece. So we'll see if that's the case this year again. And yeah, those episodes will be coming out on the 8th, 15th, 22nd, and 29th of December. And we'll be back in January. We may be off for a week on January 5th, my birthday. I'm flying back from Ireland that day, so I think we'll have a week off start of January, and then we'll be back with the regularly scheduled Noclip podcast for 2024 the week after that. So there you go. All right, let's talk about some games we actually played this week. Jeremy, you have, similar to Frank, decided to spend your time in the past in Eastern Europe. What's going on? What's going on over in Pripyat?
Yeah, so I've been sick basically since the last time I talked to you guys. I got a cold over the weekend, so I whenever I get sick, I feel like it's an excuse to watch a movie that I've been putting off for a long time. And an especially good opportunity to watch a movie that is hard to justify otherwise because it's extremely long. So this year has been the year I've kind of gotten into slow cinema, like directors who slow cinema is a term. There's a really good, I don't know if it's like a book or like a section of a book. I've only read excerpts from it, but Paul Schrader wrote about slow cinema and talks about like Ozu and Tarkovsky and these directors who make these grand sweeping kind of epic films, but within the moment to moment of them are just kind of like so meditative and so ruthlessly focused on the moment that they're not afraid of like, oh, is the viewer going to get tuned out because there's like a 2-minute long like no play in the middle of this that no one's going to watch. So I watched a bunch of Ozu films earlier this year. So because I was sick, I decided to finally get into Tarkovsky. Andrei Tarkovsky, one of the most famous directors in history, probably the most famous Soviet director. Probably best known for his film S.T.A.L.K.E.R, based on Roadside Picnic, the novel by the Strugatsky brothers, which is an amazing name.
Good pronunciation.
So the people are probably most familiar with S.T.A.L.K.E.R because of because of the video games, especially because this is a video games podcast. So Danny, before we started this podcast, I mentioned that I watched this movie, was going to talk about it. And he was like, I'm about to watch it. Please don't spoil anything.
Dude, I know. I'm this is like, I winced over this last night because when I saw you write it down, I was like, fuck. Because on Monday, I'd had like it was a kind of a long weekend. Thanksgiving is super extended because we have people out of town who come in. It was kind of stressful. Kid was off all last week. So I was just like, super busy and super, moving house, all this sort of stuff's going on. And on Monday night, I was wiped. And I was like, I'm just going to sit down and watch a movie. And I have had the Criterion Collection copy of S.T.A.L.K.E.R since COVID, because I'm like, one of these days, I'm going to sit down and watch S.T.A.L.K.E.R properly. And I was like, fuck, I really want to watch S.T.A.L.K.E.R. And then I went to get up and watch it and realized that I'd packed my Blu-ray and my Blu-ray like player. So I was like, well, fuck, I guess I'll watch. And I ended up watching, I guess I didn't know this. Whoever, it was a Paramount Plus did a series of The Stand, which I've never read Stephen King's The Stand, and I actually thought it was about I thought it was a courtroom drama. I didn't know anything about The Stand. I've always heard about The Stand. For some reason, I just thought it was a courtroom drama because of the name. And then I was like, oh, it's this weird, like, end of the world eldritch thing. I watched 2 episodes of that show instead of S.T.A.L.K.E.R.
Nice.
And it was actually pretty good. So I've
just constantly waiting for them to arrive at the courtroom. You're like, I don't understand.
When's it start?
Where are the lawyers?
Why 7 billion people are dead? But when are we going to get down to the
when are we going to litigate?
Litigate, exactly. So I felt like shit, and I saw you write that down. I was like, God damn it, I should have watched S.T.A.L.K.E.R. And then last night I was like, well, I watched S.T.A.L.K.E.R. tonight. And then I was like, no, it's like 3 hours long.
It's really long.
Yeah.
So I will not. I was planning on talking a little bit about the differences between the portrayals of the zone that they do in like.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's totally fine. I'm just going to talk more about the game. The only thing I'll say is that it might be my favorite movie of all time.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, now
like,
I definitely don't want to talk about it.
We'll
do a S.T.A.L.K.E.R. podcast, maybe.
I would actually love that. I actually, you've probably played more. Have you played much of the S.T.A.L.K.E.R. games?
Oh, absolutely. Loads.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, then I feel like we should. I'll talk a little bit about my experience with the first few hours, but we should revisit this and put a pin in it and talk about the movie once you've seen it.
That'd be rad.
Because it is like, I need more time to say it was my favorite movie of all time. Okay. It's only been less than a week, but like I have not stopped thinking. It's unbelievable. But the concept of Roadside Picnic and S.T.A.L.K.E.R. and the S.T.A.L.K.E.R. games all kind of gravitate around this place called the Zone. This place in Eastern Europe in this kind of alternate history where strange things happen. And in all of these different S.T.A.L.K.E.R. media, there are people called stalkers. It's actually funny. If you listen to the last podcast, I talked about those urban exploration channels that I've been watching a bunch of.
Yeah.
So this is kind of what put S.T.A.L.K.E.R. back on my radar because in those videos, when those urban explorers go to Chernobyl, people who are tourists in Chernobyl, when they see those people, they refer to them as stalkers.
Oh, that's crazy.
And it is such an important piece of media that it's a neologism when a new term emerges, like someone makes up a fake term and it turns into a real thing.
Yeah.
So people who go to, because these guys in stalkers in the media go into the zone, this like dangerous, abandoned, forbidden place with gear, with backpacks, with masks and stuff, and sneak around and kind of do forbidden stuff. People who do urban exploration in Eastern Europe are often referred to as stalkers.
That's very
which
cool.
I love.
Yeah, that's very cool.
So that put it back on my radar because I was like, oh damn, I like if it's that important that like even because I think of Tarkovsky as something that's like film nerds watch like me. And so I was like, if it's that prevalent that like normal people use it as a term, I just need to I must need to watch this. So the differences in the way that they represent it, I won't talk about Tarkovsky's S.T.A.L.K.E.R. to preserve it for you, but basically like in the game S.T.A.L.K.E.R., it's kind of more of like an ecological thing. In the book, I guess it's more of like an alien visitation. Like there's some sort of extraterrestrial event that creates the zone, and then there's like weird anomalies with like radioactivity and like artifacts, and people are trying to steal artifacts from the zone and stuff. So that's in the game. There are like these radioactive artifacts that are kind of like damage you with radiation, but give you little boosts and stuff.
Had you played S.T.A.L.K.E.R. until this point?
No, never played.
And you're playing the first one.
I'm playing Shadow Chernobyl, which is the first one, right?
It's the first one, yeah. Clear Sky is the one after that.
Okay, cool. I bought the 2010 one, Pripyat as well.
Call of Pripyat. Yeah.
Call of Pripyat. So I started playing. I've played probably between 3 and 4 hours of Chernobyl. It's really interesting, and it's the best part is kind of comparing and contrasting the different portrayals of the zone, because in this it's way more literal. Like the only thing I'll say about Tarkovsky is that it's way more like mystical.
Yeah.
So you're like, the intro is like you're on a truck full of corpses, like it's struck by lightning. And like you're the only one who is alive, I guess, or something. You're like the marked man.
Is this the start of the first
game?
God, I can't even remember that. It sounds like the start of Skyrim.
It's actually, it is kind of like Skyrim now that you mention it. I feel like every RPG, you're just like a guy on a vehicle,
a wagon.
Oh, good, you're awake.
Yeah. I just remember all the lads playing fucking guitar and doing the wiggy wiggy or whatever they say. There's like the
So you kind of get to this like little camp, and the only thing you have is a PDA that has this guy's name S.T.A.L.K.E.R on it, and you're total amnesiac, which is very classic RPG. And then you meet up with these people at this camp who are kind of like, all right, well, we kind of know who S.T.A.L.K.E.R is. He's like a stalker in the zone. If you scratch our back, we'll scratch yours. And you start becoming kind of like an errand boy around the zone. And the zone is a place filled with like rabid, mutated dogs and bandits and other stalkers, and just like weird gravitational anomalies that will lift you up in the sky and tear your limbs off if you run into them. And they're kind of invisible.
Yeah, you gotta have your pocket full of little fucking screws, man.
Yeah, little bolts with gauze on them. Yeah. So the like the feeling I keep getting when I'm playing this game is that I'm playing an MMORPG that nobody plays anymore. It's which is kind of perfect. Like because in the beginning they're like, oh, there's like radioactive boars. Can you go clear out the boar cave? And I was like, oh hell yeah,
get 5 ruined pelt.
Like, I could go skin some leather for you, kill 12 rats. But yeah, it's just this really kind of like, I don't know. It feels. I've played a lot of FPS from the mid 2000s, and I feel like a lot of them are kind of, with the exception of maybe like Far Cry and stuff. A lot of them feel kind of like corridor shooters and are very kind of like constrained, and there's like the heavily designed encounters. You walk into the room, there's like 2 guys like this and a flamethrower guy, and kind of about dealing with this. This is about like walking around, and then your PDA beeps, and there's like 3 stalkers in range of me, and one of them is the 724th best stalker in the zone. And there's something about how open it is and how much freedom they give you that not only makes it feel like an MMO, but really makes it feel like a sandbox RPG almost.
It's one of those games that is like, it's really difficult to describe how amazing it was in like 2007, I think it was when it came out, because it was like, now we take it for granted the first person shooters are like open world affairs. Like the first game that really did that was the original Far Cry, and that was 2004. But even then, that game was like, each level was like sort of wide, but like it was it was just that there was no real internal until later in the game, like inside buildings, you're just outdoors. So it was just like big levels basically. And then Far Cry 2 obviously was the one that went open world, but like you had Half-Life in, around in 2004 as well, that was, super, super linear. And then S.T.A.L.K.E.R comes around, and it's like, it's all the shit that we took for granted now. All the like games like Dead Island and Dying Light, these are all from S.T.A.L.K.E.R. Like even stuff like I guess the Far Cry series eventually went into this like open world RPG first person shooter thing, but S.T.A.L.K.E.R was like 100, like was the first one of those. And it's funny that you mentioned the MMO-ness of it, because it is very like menu-y. Like it's weirdly like even your inventory screen is like it's all very cumbersome. Like I think Clear Sky is the one that a lot of people will play today because it's a bit more streamlined than that first game. First one's a bit rough around the edges, but I wonder what it's like. That's why I'm interested in how you felt playing the first game, because like to me, I wonder if a lot of that stuff is like, because it's got so many rough edges that have been smoothed out by games since then. Like, is it just, and the impressive thing about it was something that is now so commonplace. That's why I worry about S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2, because I'm like, oh, people are just used to these games now. Whereas back then it was like, you could just find a bunker and then go in the bunker, and it's a level. It's like, what? You know?
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Fallout a little bit because of
Right.
that. Like it does feel like like if Fallout is the Western Stalker, then Stalker is the Eastern Fallout in some sense.
And did Fallout 3 come out 07 or 08? It
That's a
came
really
out
good question.
08, so it was a year before Fallout 3.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, so I was curious about. I didn't even know where to start with Stalker. I mean, I'm like aware of which games there were, but I looked up kind of what people suggest, and a lot of people on forums were saying that there is kind of story spoilers you can run into, but the biggest thing is polish spoiler. That if you play the later ones first,
Oh, that's funny.
then going back to the initial one, you're like, oh, this is just like a shittier version.
That's great. Okay,
so
that's
I wanted
a great
to play the rough one
justification.
first.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I wanted to start at the start and see. Yeah, I really like it. I don't know. I don't know how long it is, so I don't know if I'll play 100% of it. But I'm really enjoying it. The only thing that's rubbed me the wrong way so far is there's no auto run, and you have to run very long distances.
Yeah.
And I want to just like numlock my World of Warcraft keyboard and like drink coffee. And the TTK, the time to kill on like NPC enemies is it feels quite high.
Yeah.
And so there's like, I almost wish it was like you died faster and they died faster. And it was kind of more about like popping out, getting one shot off and then hiding again. It kind of feels like I have to pop out. And I'm in the first 4 hours. So I have like a pistol and like an MP5.
Yeah.
So I'll probably, this will balance out, but it does feel like I have to unload like 2 full clips into a bandit for them to die. And in that time, I'm taking so many shots that I'm just like eating sausage and bandaging myself constantly.
Yeah, I'll say I don't want to say anything that would like change how you're playing. So I don't want to say, I'll say the game doesn't do, it's not like World of Warcraft where you can attack everyone immediately. It's kind of, there are some fights that maybe you don't do until you're like 20 hours in, and then you can start to have those fights.
That's good to know. Yeah, because the intro zone even has like a there's like a train bridge, and underneath it there's a bunch of guys with guns.
Yeah.
And it's the obvious way out of the starter zone to the next objective. And for a while, like I probably spent 45 minutes just like save scumming and trying to have that fight go well for me. And I think after a while, like I was kind of halfway through it, and I had used like all of my items and ammo. I was like, I don't think the game wants me to do this.
You've done it again. It's the same. It's the thing you did in Caesar's Legion in New Vegas.
Yeah, totally.
You're like,
that's
I'm too far in. I need to keep going. I need to murder
skin in the game.
Everyone in this camp has to die.
That's what I like about like old kind of open-ended RPG adjacent games, though, is like giving me enough leeway to do weird shit like that. Like I kind of sensed I was not supposed to be doing that long before I gave up on it.
Yeah.
And I just, that's what I like about those games is like, how far can I take this, and will the game let me? And it does, but there's also, it gives you other paths of least resistance to explore as well.
It's cool if you can pull it off. You get all that gear and you bring it back to your man and trade it all in. Like it's good shit. That would be a great game. We got to restart Noclip Game Club in the new year. That would be a good one for that, I think, because
I would love that.
It's good fun. Hell yeah. S.T.A.L.K.E.R, Shadow of Chernobyl. Looking forward to S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2. I hope, obviously they've had an absolutely tumultuous development, just with not even game side of stuff, but obviously the war and everything else. It's just very crazy times for them over there. Looking forward to whenever it comes out in 2024. I think it's an interesting thing. And a lot of people who worked on the original S.T.A.L.K.E.R obviously spread out. There was a bunch of other studios that sort of appeared from that, made some great games. So that first game, super influential. I played a little bit of a game called, not a little bit, I played maybe 3 or 4 hours of a game called Laika, I want to call it. It is a fascinating blend of genres. It came out back in October. Head Up Publishing did it. It actually has a weird Devolver vibe to it, weirdly enough. Just the graphics and the pulpiness of the trailer. I gotta check out some more of their games, actually. They have a great game here called Hell Pie, which sounds interesting. So there's a demo of this as well. Laika, it's Laika, Aged Through Blood. And it is basically, it's like Trials, the like motorcycle game, mixed with like Super Meat Boy, maybe something like that. It's a very weird blend. So basically the game In the game, it is a 2D game. You're looking at from the side, like if you've played Trials HD or any of those Trials games where you're just on a motorbike trying to get across the level left to right and you're doing flips and stuff. It's like in a post-apocalyptic world somewhere. There's all these anthropomorphic animals. You are a fox who is riding a motorbike. And this motorbike the graphics are gorgeous. You do like little jumps on the motorbike and stuff like that. And over the first like couple of hours or so, they do a lot of like, tutorializing about what you can do on the motorbike. But the long and short of it is that you eventually get in a situation where you also have a gun that you can fire. You can also slow down, the world, and you're using your bike to traverse levels and have gunfights on a bike. So you are driving around, shooting people while on your motorcycle, like bending the motorcycle so it blocks bullets, hitting a button at a certain time so that you can knock the bullets back at the people who shot them. When you run out of ammunition for your gun, you have to do a backflip to reload. To get your like parry back, you have to do a front flip. It's just a very like awesome looking experience. When you're like in the flow of it, it's very cool. I will say that it's kind of, so there's a lot of checkpoints in the levels because you get into scenarios where like, oh, you have to like jump into this area and you have to like kill like 5 of these birds while also trying to like reload, not get hit, dodge their bullets with your bike, do a front flip to reload, do a back flip to get your parry. So they're kind of like little puzzles, but you play them out as if very physically because it's real time. You can't like just pause and decide what to do. You have to like get in there, do the thing properly. So it's kind of like Meat Boy in that way, where it's a lot of like thinking and getting your fingers to do what you're thinking as fast as you can. Mileage may vary based on how patient you are with that type of loop. But I think it's so unique. I've literally never played a game like this. It's a complete like genre mashup, which has created a style of gameplay that I've never experienced. The graphics are just beautiful. It's like really well, gorgeously rendered. And it's just confident. Like they found a type of game genre and they jumped in with both feet, and the game is rad. It's got 1,700 reviews on Steam, overwhelmingly positive. Absolutely not surprised. And I've been playing it on Steam Deck and having an absolute blast.
I'm shocked I haven't heard more about this. When you posted in the podcast doc the other day, I looked it up, and I was shocked how popular it was because the name kind of rang a bell, but it's not a game I've heard a lot of people talk about. And then I watched footage of it being played, and it's just like, it's the most immediately grokkable, like, oh yeah, of course, you're like you're flying around on a motorcycle and shooting people. It's like, it just looks, I don't know, it's like instantly you get why it's fun.
Yeah, it's gorgeous too, right?
Yeah, it's really, really pretty.
Like the graphics are nice. It's got some there's like a decent story in it as well. Like you're kind of taking calls, like it's all text based, but you're taking calls while you're riding around sometimes, and you like hit E to like respond to them. And it's done in a smart way where like whenever the story comes in, you sort of know you're in a non-combat part of the game, because there's parts of the game where you're fighting, where you're like going into a bunker to like get somebody or invading a place or doing whatever, and then you're driving to these areas too, and then a lot of the biomes change and stuff like that. So they do a good job of like exploring the story, and like the story's kind of hardcore. Like it's you mentioned something a couple of weeks ago. You made some reference to some like, I forget what game we were talking about last week, but you made a reference to like some type of anthropomorphic animal thing where like the animals get hurt. It kind of reminded me of that old, like, is it Brer Rabbit or something like that? Or
like Redwall or something?
Redwall you mentioned. Yeah. So, any of those old cartoons that where the animals were like anthropomorphized and then they get hurt, and it's
sad.
It's so sad.
Yeah.
So they do a bit of that in this as well. Like I think the warning at the start of the game was like violence against children, but they're like fox children, so maybe it's not so bad. I don't know.
That's extra sad to me.
Yeah, maybe. So it's like, it's just a great little, it's a really confident game. Like Brainwash Gang are the crowd that made it. They have a bunch of credits on Steam games. I don't know how plugged in they were to all of these. I know nothing about the development of this game, but it's super competent. Like it feels incredibly well polished. The controls are sticky. The graphics are beautiful. Like I don't know how to pronounce it, or explain it. It's like I don't want to. I hit the Mobius bell a lot. It doesn't look like Mobius, like the style of drawing of Mobius, but it looks like the places that Mobius would draw, if that makes sense. Like these sort of big deserts with big skies and odd cloud formations, but the graphics are sort of like, I don't know, somewhat cell shaded comic booky or something. Just do yourself a favor, go Google it. Laika Aged Through Blood on Steam. It's $20. There's a demo up. Yeah, can't say anything nicer about it. I've really enjoyed it. I got to keep playing it and see if it should go on the Game of the Year conversation list. I'm not quite sure it's going to break into that top 10, but yeah, super smart little game.
What's the it says it's a Metroidvania. Is it kind of a, like, what's the world flow? Like when I saw the screenshots, I pictured this being like a level 1 and then you do a thing and it goes to level 2. But is it kind of like open world as 2D, as much as 2D can be?
No, it is kind of level by level, but the levels themselves have like sort of gates that need to be opened through either doing certain abilities or you're kind of looping around a lot, if that makes sense. Like sometimes there's elevators and you come back somewhere. Sometimes there's like doors you couldn't breach before, but then they're like funneling you into this other area and then you kind of loop back around to it. There are like upgrades and stuff, for your kit and things like that. But I wouldn't necessarily call it Metroidvania. To me is like a game where you're spending a lot of time at one place and going back there and looping around. I don't get that feeling from this one. It feels more like a road trip to me. But the levels themselves, I can see that. Yeah, for sure. Maybe I've not played enough. Maybe later on maybe you're stuck in one place for a while or you travel back more or something, but I haven't experienced any of that myself. Yeah, one of the things I've enjoyed about it a lot is that each new place you reach, it has like a very different look to it. It's lots of I don't know. It's in some ways it's not all that different from what was the climbing game we talked about the past few weeks? Toussaint, where it has just abandoned, settlements and deserts and high bluffs and stuff like that. Like very solitary, very Mad Maxy, it definitely there's a Mad Max vibe to this as well. Lots of effigies and skulls and, camps made of, broken down cars and metal, sheet metal and wood and stuff like that. Yeah, interesting little game. Frank, no new games is written down here, but you have played some Diablo 4. Should we be talking about Diablo 4 on the Game of the Year list? It's not there.
No, it's
fair enough.
So every time this year, December, November, I always like kind of crash. It's like, I don't know, winter depression. It gets dark earlier. It's time, stuff slows down. It's time for self-reflection, which is terrifying. But there's lots of time to play video games and lots of time to grind. And so every year around this time, I usually fall. In the years past, it's been Earth Defense Force, Dynasty Warriors, One Piece Warriors, Monster Hunter. And I realized, like, oh shit, no, like there's a reason. I have an excess of time. It's like I need to acclimate myself to think it's okay to rest and take it easy, because I'm always like I can't sit still, period.
Yeah.
But the nice thing is, instead of doing that alone and accidentally making myself feel more miserable, Diablo 4 is perfect this time of year because all my friends have it. They've all beaten the game. They can carry me, and it's incredible. So playing Diablo 4 now, months after it's come out, I don't know if they did hot fixes or what. It plays great. It's fun. I jumped in. I picked up my Sydney Sweeney character I made at the beginning of the year. She's like a sorceress. I expect her to be like lightning. So now when I do one attack, it electrocutes like 20 people on screen at once. And I looked up a build that like makes the game so easy. No, I looked up like talent builds and stuff like that to like maximize it. And so my friends and I have been playing it and streaming it, and it's just like, it's so funny and silly, but it's exactly what I need. A game that I can turn off my brain, listen to stuff, or goof with friends. And it's been like a nice way of decompressing, because I've been so like in my head and I need like something to chew on or just grind mindlessly.
Right. So, Alan Wake 2 ain't that.
No, it is like my decompress. Like Alan Wake, I have to play first thing in the morning with coffee. I need to be like, okay, Like I can't
intense.
I can't stream that game. I can't be distracted. It's like fully like no, I gotta like, and yeah, it's legit. Whereas Diablo 4, it's like it just devolves into me screaming at people, and it's fun. It's fun. So I don't know. It kind of came and went. And then it got smacked by Baldur's Gate, a real RPG. Like, so I get it, but I think maybe also going to Diablo after playing Baldur's Gate 3 is like, okay, yeah, you know what? It's kind of nice to not be terrified every time you start a combat encounter.
Well, you bring up a good point, right? Because we have Diablo 4 and it's not on the list.
Mm-hmm.
And I've decided to do just a quick little look to see if there's any other games that came out this year that are not on our list that maybe should be put on the list or should be at least talked about. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom.
Oh, yeah.
We never put that down. Are we all kind of in the same boat where we immediately bounced off this game?
I didn't immediately bounce off. I gave it probably 16, 17 hours.
Okay.
But it just didn't click with me. I have very specific criticisms about it that I don't need to get into here. Maybe we could do a Tears of the Kingdom breakdown someday, with a big listen at your own risk caveat on it.
Right.
But yeah, like my best friend who I talk about video games with all the time, like I absolutely loved it, played it through entirely in like 2 weeks, and we've like hashed it out, and we just had such different experiences that I want to give it more time. It's just not clicking with me.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna stick it in the doc just because we should have it in there for due diligence. The other one's Starfield. Nobody mentions Starfield. We've all played a lot of Starfield.
Bethesda's going to reply to our Game of the Year podcast and be like, actually, there's a lot of fun in this game if you know where to look for it.
That?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
So for people who haven't seen this, but it's very common for the discourse around this has been that Bethesda is replying to negative Steam reviews and kind of like explaining them away. And some indie devs have rightfully explained that this is common practice now to reply to a ton of negative reviews because it really can make a huge difference on Steam. Like, especially if someone's like, yeah, I hit a bug, I like couldn't get past level 4, and it's like an early access indie game, and they're like, hey, we're aware of the bug. It's like, we're gonna fix it in the next 2 weeks, and that can flip a positive to a negative just because that person, or a negative to a positive because that person feels seen. But with the Bethesda stuff, they're like, someone's like, yeah, this game sucks. It's like boring. There's like nothing. All the plants are empty. And they're like, well, actually, the real moon is empty too. Have you considered that?
They actually said that the astronauts said that the real moon was sparse, but it wasn't boring. And it's like,
yeah, but you're on the moon.
You're on the fucking moon.
You're not in your fucking office.
No. What the fuck? Are you trying
baffling.
Yeah, so the replies, yeah, you're right. It's like the thing you get on like TripAdvisor or whatever when you like, or Expedia when you go to like Airbnb when like somebody leaves a shitty review and then they're like, oh, we're sorry you had that, blah blah blah.
Yeah, I found a staple in my sandwich. And they're like, sometimes in a restaurant, staples are a desirable element of a sandwich.
A great source of metal,
vitamins,
iron, all that stuff. Sorry, Frank, what were you saying?
No, it reminds me of that Gabe Newell quote where it's like, just because things realistic doesn't make it like fun.
True.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
yeah. Being on the moon is realistic. That's not fun. I would hate to be on the moon.
Put an alien there. Lie to us.
Exactly. It's funny. Yeah. I think we called this after we played it, where we were like saying like it's a fun game, but it just didn't. The soul ain't there. It doesn't have the soul, which I think you kind of need to keep those games. Keep you in those worlds. We're going to have a little documentary actually with Nate Perkypile, who was responsible for a lot of the worlds or parts of lots of the worlds in previous Bethesda games. He actually worked on Neon as well in Starfield, but he quit Bethesda long before the game came out, so I'm not sure how much of his work is actually in there. But Nate is making the Axis Unseen. He went from working at a huge studio and shipping games like Fallout 3 and Skyrim to making a single player or solo dev open world hunting game. So we'll have a small little documentary about that. I say small, it's like 20 minutes long. It's like small for us. Little documentary about that coming out in December as well. Other ones that stand out, that Dead Space remake, Assassin's Creed Mirage, Hogwarts Legacy, Armored Core 6.
So like 2 games I would recommend that like I wish I had more time to play are like that are worth checking out is definitely that latest Like a Dragon. The man who erased his name is awesome. But part of me is like it's also kind of like a side mission / prologue to the new like the Like a Dragon coming out next month. So I love it, but it's like it's just, you know, it's same thing with Mortal Kombat. It's like these are awesome games, but it's like more of the same. So like,
should we get Redfall on the list? Should we get,
no.
Not for,
but Armored Core 6
so
was really good. But Armored Core 6 is hard, but Armored Core 6 is tight.
Yeah.
I think that Armored Core 6 is like, there needs to be like, because like, no, I think it was only a $60 game, but it felt like that and like Hi-Fi Rush and Bomb Rush are on the same element of like, these are awesome, like like the best PS2 games of 2023.
Yeah.
Like where it's like, no, it's like small, medium scale, but phenomenal. Like, I don't know, but it's nice mentioning Armored Core 6 because that's very good.
Yeah, I'm still bummed about Redfall. I love Arcane so much. I want nothing but good things there. Forspoken, Atomic Heart. I mean, there's a lot of games that probably won't make the cut here. Payday 3 came out. Man, that game came out and didn't make a whisper. That was so strange. Tchia, a game that I really enjoyed. That New Caledonian game. It came out earlier this year. I've been enjoying that with my daughter ever since. Is Sea of Stars on our list?
I don't think so. It was on the like need to play more list, and I think I was the only one who wanted to play more of it. Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's mysteriously disappeared from the list.
Spider-Man 2 is not on the list either. Either is Star Wars Jedi Survivor. There's a lot of so yeah, I think that says a lot about the type of games that we give a shit about, maybe as well. So there you go. There's some games. Plenty of those to talk about next week. That should be good fun. I'm excited to jump into that. We do have one more email to finish out the year. Frank Haley, what we got here?
From Miko the Thicko in our Discord.
Miko the Thicko, maybe?
Miko the Thicko. Oh yeah, Miko the Thicko.
Depends if they're Irish or Japanese, I guess.
Yeah. I have a question for the pod. Does anyone have a favorite RTS game that somehow got lost to history? Personally, I loved Homeworld when I was a kid, but I basically never found anyone else who played it. And my favorite RTS has to be Age of Mythology, which, to be fair, I have successfully evangelized to many friends.
Yeah, I've got one in the chamber. My go-to. You guys have any RTS games? Do you guys play much RTS stuff?
I didn't that much. Like, my answer for the longest time was like, man, I really like Age of Empires 3. Why don't people talk about this game? Because I played it when I was like, I don't know, 11 or 12, but it was my first Age of Empires. And then when we did that Age of Empires documentary, I played 2, I played a lot of 4, and I was like, oh, 3 sucks. I don't like 3. But I fell in love with 4. I think Age of Empires 4 is incredible.
4, yeah.
Like, I love that a lot. But I never got too deep into RTS.
I played so much Age of Empires 2 as a kid. I played it so much that I would just sit and watch my brother play it because I liked the game so much that it was just like a joy to be around it. Yeah, I mean, I played a ton of RTS. I played more StarCraft and StarCraft Brood War as a kid than I'd like to admit. In terms of like obscure RTSs, I'm trying to think. The only one that comes to mind is what was the Star Wars RTS? The really old one. It was like Rebel. Was it Empire at War? 2006.
Okay, yeah.
That seems a little late. Oh no, Galactic Battlegrounds. I think this is it.
Oh right. Okay. Yeah. I remember in PC Gamer seeing a bunch of stuff about this. I just didn't care about Star Wars enough to. I played Dark Forces, but I never played this one.
Yeah, I loved Star Wars as a kid. Had like all the books with like the exploded diagrams of how the Millennium Falcon actually like works. Like if you're gonna build one. But yeah, Galactic Battlegrounds was kind of just like a basically just like it felt like a mod for Age of Empires. It felt like a Star Wars mod. I don't think it was particularly good, but I liked it as a kid.
Hell yeah. I was a big fan of Rise of Nations.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember that? So that was made by Big Huge Games, which are one of the funniest dev stories. I think I like them because I lived in Maryland then after a while, and they were founded in around Baltimore somewhere. So was Firaxis, right? So was Sid Meier's stuff over there as well. Something in the Water over on the East Coast. Rise of Nations was basically Age of Empires, but from the Stone Age, I think, or maybe a little bit later, until like the Information Age. And it was like an isometric, looked very much like Age of Empires, but in Age of Empires you got to like the Castle Age and that was it. Whereas this one was like, no, we're gonna keep fucking going, lads. We're gonna go all the way. We're gonna have like we're going to change like the way we like, we're going to have like stock markets eventually. We're going to have, we're going to have World War II. And you end up in these weird situations where you have one country that's like in like World War One, and one of them is like back in like the Mesolithic period or something. They're like fighting each other. But the coolest thing was that if you got to the end, and me and my buddy Dale used to play this on LAN, if you got to the end where both of you were nuclear powers, you could like build nukes, like silos of nukes, and you could like get into like a sort of a mutually assured destruction situation. But if you fired your nuke at them, like you could like destroy a city and they'd fire one back. But I think it was like there was a limit and it was an uneven number, so it was like 7 or something. That if 7 nukes went off, everyone lost. Like
Oh wow!
It was just it was like the game is forfeit. The Earth is fucking destroyed. There's nobody wins. Which was a very cool way to end one of those games after you'd built it up.
Yeah, that's almost like Civ a little bit. Like so the gameplay is super different, but the like world-ending condition being like a gamified version of kind of mutually assured destruction is really interesting.
Right.
That reminds me of. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I got to play it. It's on Steam. I don't know how good this is, but they have an extended edition that came out in 2014. So back when they were, I guess, doing a lot of these, like Age of Empires had a bunch of HD versions around then too. Xbox Game Studios. So I wonder who owns it now, because Big Huge got like acquired by 38 Studios at one stage. At one stage it was called Epic Baltimore, which is maybe the coolest game studio name ever. But it's funny, if you've never seen Rise of Nations, you should like look at like a screenshot of it, because it looks like somebody took Age of Empires and did like a palette swap and just like stuck like, fucking World War II battleships in there instead of the little fishing boats. It's a good time.
You jogged my memory by mentioning the kind of like mismatch of ages to did you guys ever play Empire Earth?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
So that was another RTS. That was like the right when games were kind of switching over into the early 3D era. So it was kind of like a Age of Empires inspired RTS, but very kind of like early 3D, and it had the age progression thing. So you would have like dropping nukes on like cavemen, like having like a B-52 bomber come through and bomb a Roman legionnaire.
You're right. God, that was I forgot. You're right. It's very similar to Rise of Nations. Which one came out first?
That's a really good question. I feel like Rise of Nations is probably the OG if I had to guess.
Empire Earth was, does it say?
2000,
surely it's not that. The first one was 2001.
Yeah.
And they had a bunch of them, but Empire was 3 of them in total. And then Rise of Nations
2003.
2003. There you go.
Oh wow! All right, so they took the Empire Earth formula and they improved. Empire Earth was kind of rough around the edges, but I think it's one of those games that I got from like the Scholastic Book Fair as a kid.
They did the sort of the Frank Howley treatment, I guess, is that Age of Empire or Empire Earth was a bit too Age of Empires 3. And so Rise of Nations came around and went, you know what, we'll do that, but we'll do it Age of Empires 2 style.
Back to basics.
That'll make it happen. So I guess they weren't wrong. Man, yeah. There's some good ones. I feel like Homeworld is like maybe one of the most requested docs we get a lot. We talked to them maybe last year or the year before at one stage about doing something, because they had the new Homeworld came out or was coming out. Did that Homeworld ever come out? God, I'm so out of the fucking loop.
Homeworld 3 looks like 2024, February 2024.
Okay. Yeah, so that's still there. Yeah, people love Homeworld, man. I played the first one.
I've never played any of these games.
Yeah, I'm just not good at like 4X stuff or anything that even looks like it's a 4X game. It's just too much. It's too many X's for me.
I got one more. I got the best answer of all. So this is such a good write-in, by the way. This like spurred so many memories in me. Imperium Galactica 2. Did you guys ever play this game?
No.
Okay. My brother and I played this game. One of his friends brought it over and we played it, and you couldn't play it without the disc. So we installed it, played it a bunch, got obsessed with it, and then ordered it from like the, super old version of Amazon back in the day when it was a bookstore. And my brother and I stood out on the curb in our yard waiting for the delivery to come for like 5 days. Like we're like, I don't remember if there was tracking. I don't remember if we knew when to expect it. I just remember like waiting outside for a week for this game. And was obsessed with it. It was like a space, it wasn't really an RTS. It was kind of like 4X, but not any sort of like grid or anything. just like planets and kind of like diplomacy between different alien races and stuff. And then the combat was like these instanced, like you would have a fleet and then you would get into combat and it would go to like a separate instanced screen to have the fleets like duke it out. But Imperium Galactica 2 was awesome.
Man, $10 on Steam right now. Very positive reviews. Release date December 1st, 1999. 5 years before Steam was released, so very impressive that they managed to get it up there 5 years early. The original game is $5 as well. Man, that's cool. That's so sweet. The two of you were like just so jazzed about this. I remember feeling that way about Transport Tycoon. I remember
That's such a funny one to be so excited.
It's so weird,
for.
yeah.
You're like, I love logistics as a kid. I can't wait to do logistics.
It's such a weird game as well because it's like, you know what I like? I like roads and bridges, but I also like trains, but I also like boats and airplanes too. I like all of them. I'm not just a train guy. I'm also an airplane and boat guy. And road guy. It's such a weird.
Oh, that's so funny.
Fuck, Transport Tycoon. I remember I got it. I think I told this story before. I bought it I was so excited about this game that the sequel came out and it was like super cheap in a thing. And I was like, I don't know, 12, and I bought it for my brother for Christmas. And then gave it to him. He was like, "Oh, okay." And then I realized that it was actually me who really wanted it. I had this thing where I just thought that however, I was just excited. I was like, "Oh, everyone must be really excited about this game." I hadn't considered that people have their own preferences, and I still feel guilty about that. Sorry, Alan. Sorry to my brother.
That's so funny.
I think I was 10 or 11 actually. I might have been 10.
Oh, that's really cute then. If you were that young, then that's adorable.
Oh, I'll keep going. I was 7. Yeah, I was keep making it. The older I get, the more embarrassing it is.
Yeah. I was 31.
When did Transport Tycoon come out? That's the fucking litmus test for this one. 1994. Okay, so it was 8 when I came out. Well, it came out when I was 8. So I could have been 8. I was in a bargain bin, so it was probably fucking 3 years later. There you go. Great. Thank you, Miko the Thicko. Great questions. And thank you, Frank, for taking all those emails and Discord messages throughout the year. We'll get more into those next year. Obviously, we won't have much of an opportunity with the Game of the Year stuff. But if you do have any games of the year that we have not mentioned or any ones you think might be able to squeeze in last minute, podcast at noclip.video. Let us know ASAP. That's a podcast, folks. We got some docs up. Awesome work on the edit of NHL 94, Jeremy Jane.
Thank you.
I kind of flubbed the thumbnail a bit and the video ate shit for a day. And then I changed the thumbnail and then it was like, oh no, we're good now. And now it's climbing back up.
Wait, what was the initial thumbnail?
It was is this the best game ever? It was the box art, but it just had the text on it. And then I was like, oh, it looks like shit. Doesn't even look like a Noclip thumbnail. And then I was like, oh, I'll change it. I got some NHL 94 sprites, which are just darling. They're just beautiful little boys. And put those ones up. And you can literally see on the view curve, it just goes from blah, 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 blah to oh no, okay, we're good. We're going back up. We're
it's
into
okay
Noclip
now.
territory again.
It's got 90K after 5 days. That's not bad.
Oh, great.
Especially for it's an old game. It's a sports game. It's I don't know. I mean, I'm biased because I hate sports, but I think the stock is amazing.
No, you're right. I was the same way. I was like, oh shit, did it eat shit? Is it that because it's because it might just look like we did FIFA 2003 for it might look arbitrary that we picked that game.
Yeah.
If you don't know about it, and maybe people don't click on it. So here's the funny thing: is that it had an appalling click-through rate, 2.9%. But the watch time was 50% higher than our average. And our average is pretty high because people kind of know what they're in for when they click one of ours. So the average watch time was 18 minutes or something. It was pretty high. So I was like, oh shit, okay.
It's a very
the algo will have it.
It's a very fast-paced edit, I feel like. It delivers a lot of interesting anecdotes really early on to kind of get you onboarded into the EA Sports history.
Right.
So I don't know. I feel like I said, I didn't know the significance of NHL 94 before starting this edit, and I also don't like sports. So I am arguably the best use case for whether or not this I don't think there could have been a better team member for this edit because I hate sports and I still thought this was so fascinating.
Right.
And I don't even really play sports games. I played a little bit back in the day, but not really. So I don't know. I feel like I was like, how can we make this interesting? What are the anecdotes here that are not reliant upon someone being yeah, I love sports?
You're probably the best person for it then.
Yeah.
It's Yeah, it's I really like it. You did a rad job on it. It's
Thanks, man.
the interviews are like Mark Lester is a super fascinating guy. Just just like a smart person, like was able to problem solve this thing, and it just shows you like I don't know, like especially back then, how quickly they were able to just fuck around and make stuff up, and then how sort of foundational, like how in a way modern developers, because we also included the NHL guys, the NHL 24 guys in this. And I think, I don't know, I'm like really proud of how we handled that too, because we don't just like, it's not like blowing smoke up their ass as well of like, oh, aren't those? Because I know there's a lot of like discourse in the NHL community about how those recent games are. And I know those two guys who came in are also sort of like new creative leads for that franchise. I think this is the first year for both of them, or maybe definitely for at least one of them, maybe the second for the other guy. So I liked how we included them as well in a way that was like very honest and sort of, you're like, what are the pressures? Like, what's it like making these games now with like a smaller budget than all the other EA Sports teams, with like this rabid fan base, with the annualized thing, like how it's fucking hard, you know what I mean? And like their struggle in many ways mirrors the struggle that the original developers had too, where they talk like, oh yeah, it took like 3 years for us to get the game we wanted because you just don't have enough time. You just, pumping these things out. So yeah, I think if you're not into sports games, I think it's a great doc to watch because it's so in the same way that like NBA Jam is a game that everyone plays regardless of if I couldn't care less about basketball. I love NBA. I have an NBA Jam machine at home. Like that's it's the same with NHL 94. It's just a great, in a way, I think if you dislike sports games, it's even better to watch because it just,
it's like a portal into understanding
Yes.
why sports games are interesting from a game design perspective. Like I kept thinking about like Soulsborne games when they were talking about hitboxes and like, yeah, I don't know. It's very sneakily a very good iterative game design documentary.
Yeah, I really liked it. Yeah, check it out. It's over on the channel. The curve actually in the past 24 hours has shot up again, so it might actually it might be off to the races at this stage, which is pretty cool to see. Also, our Half-Life documentary over on or Secret Tapes Half-Life documentary over on Valve's YouTube channel is over 3 million views now as well. Thank you to everyone who's been sending in lovely messages watching that documentary. It's very cool to see. We have had a lot of interest in Secret Tape stuff over the past 2 weeks as well. So that's we're all raring to go on that front for next year. The Access Unseen documentary will be coming out soon as well. I always can't tell if I've talked about this officially or not, and I think I have now on the podcast a few times, but our Return to Monkey Island documentary will be coming out this month as well in December. It is a 95-minute documentary. It is about Return to Monkey Island, but it is like 30% of it is about Secret and Monkey Island 2, at least. It's like the first 20 minutes, 25 minutes are all about those original games. And then every time we talk about the new game, we are talking about the old game. So it's, if you haven't played Return, maybe you don't watch the last 5 to 10 minutes of the stock. But if you have, or you like the old games and haven't played Return yet, or you're just interested in this type of, what is it about Monkey Island that's special? I think this is a great doc to sort of enjoy all that. It's all much like Return to Monkey Island, the game. The documentary is all about nostalgia and about the weight of expectation and about canon and about fandom and like how you make a new game that's that old, and also about Ron and Dave. We interviewed Dave Grossman, Ron Gilbert, David Fox, Rex Crowell, bunches of people who are part of the team. So I'm really proud of it. I think it's pretty cool. And that's it. If you'd like to support this podcast, fund our documentaries, get access to bonus episodes, the official Discord, and loads more, head over to patreon.com/noclip. Big changes coming to the Patreon early 2024. Talking about doing a lot more Patreon exclusive stuff. I have some ideas for Patreon exclusive documentaries, like little mini documentaries we can put out too. We're going to get back on with extended interviews and all that sort of stuff as well. So yeah, look forward to that once we're cleared of Game of the Year. Jeremy, what are you doing for the rest of your week here?
Well, before I say that, I just want to tease for there are so many things on the cutting room floor for this NHL documentary that would make amazing patron features. So like if you're hearing this and wondering what sort of extended interview, what sort of bits may there be, there's like a whole thing about how the game appears in Swingers, NHLPA 93, and like there's I don't know, it's just there's like an unbelievable, every documentary there's like an embarrassment of riches because all of these people just have like an insane amount of cool anecdotes. So like I don't know, I'm very excited about giving our patrons kind of like a sneak peek into the stuff that it's not like it didn't make it into the doc because it wasn't good enough. It's just, you can't take like a 5-minute detour to talk about swingers in the middle of the intro because it's like, it's weird. But anyway, yeah. So this week I don't know, probably gotta do some like thinking about Christmas and stuff and getting ready for the holidays and do a little game dev. And yeah, I've also been sick for a week, so probably like get outside for the first time in a week and get some fresh air and stuff.
Nice one. Yeah. You've reminded me I need to get my flu shot, my COVID shot, which I forgot to do. I think my family, oh my God, I got my yawn shot. I think the rest of the family got them like last month and I just completely fucking forgot. I forgot to cut my hair as well. I forget all these things and then I just do them all eventually. Rest of my week we're moving house next week, so I'm clearing out the studio as well. Like a lot of the fake wallpaper is now gone behind over there. It's all just white walls, as you can see. Moving a bunch of stuff. I also got a storage locker for the tapes so that they will continue to be in a well ventilated spot. The tape stuff will continue again in the new year, just with the move and everything going on. And the Half-Life doc, honestly, it sort of God, still feels weird saying that. It all got pushed to the side for a second. It's also why we're coming out with like 3 documentaries this month, because they were all like almost done when we got the call from Gabe. So I'm looking forward to getting these edits done. Access is almost done. Return's going to render tonight, and get some of those extended features out. As you say, we're going to change our workflow a bit. I think early next year. I think I need some more support on all that sort of stuff. And Jeremy's been killing it on the editing, so I think that's going to be that's how we can superpower the Patreon. Frank, what are you doing for the rest of your week? Playing some more games to breathe love and light into your heart.
Yeah, lots of gaming. LA Comic-Con, I'm going this Saturday. I've never been. It's independent of San Diego Comic-Con. I'm looking forward to it. Randomly, the clown from Slipknot will be there. I don't know if he's selling NFTs or whiskey. But I will take a picture of him. A comic book writer, Jason Aaron, who I like, will be there. And then, I don't know, lots of stuff. And then randomly, my friend let me borrow her entire Sailor Moon manga collection. So I have every volume of Pretty Guardian Sailor Moon. So I started reading that, and it's so funny because it's like, it's Sailor Moon's like ever present everywhere. I've never read it or like watched it. It's great. It's super charming. Who would have thought? But honestly, I spent a lot of time in bed just reading comics and manga, and made me feel a little bit better. So, but yeah.
Hell yeah. If you want to check out some awesome documentaries about Sailor Moon, you should head over to Raymona's YouTube channel. She did a rad doc called The Western World of Sailor Moon from her Tales of the Lost series, which is, she does really good docs on what would you call it? Like lost media and stuff like that. I did the voice for one of them. I'm not sure which one it's in actually. But yeah, Ray's rad, and she does lots of awesome, cool videos over on that channel, so go check it out. She shoots them all herself, edits them all herself, writes them all herself. It was super sick, so go check those out. That Sailor Moon one in particular, I watched it from start to finish, and I knew nothing about Sailor Moon. I was like, this is fucking cool. That's a podcast, folks. Thanks so much. Episode 153. We'll be back next week with the first of our 4 Game of the Year 2023 deliberations. Until then, we'll see ya. Bye.